The war between Russia and Ukraine has entered a stage where technology and long-range strikes dominate the headlines, and one of the most shocking developments came when Ukraine launched its largest-ever drone strike on Moscow. Reports from international media confirm that more than 300 drones were deployed, a scale of attack that Russia had never before experienced directly on its capital. The scale alone makes this moment a turning point in modern warfare, showing how unmanned systems can challenge even the world's most heavily defended cities. Russian officials reported intercepting 91 drones over the Moscow region and 126 more over the Kursk region, but despite the large number shot down, many still managed to reach targets on the ground. This shows both the persistence of Ukraine's tactics and the limits of Russian air defenses, even around the capital. The strike did not literally wipe out districts of Moscow as some dramatic online claims suggested, but it still caused a level of disruption and fear rarely seen in the city since the start of the war. Fires broke out in industrial areas, warehouses were damaged, and residential neighborhoods saw windows shattered and roofs damaged by falling debris. In Ramenskoye, an apartment block was hit, forcing residents to evacuate in the middle of the night. For ordinary Muscovites, the sight of flaming wreckage and the sound of sirens added a new sense of vulnerability, as though the front line of the war had suddenly shifted closer to home. In total, at least 2 or 3 people lost their lives, including warehouse workers caught in the blasts, and around 18 others were injured, among them children. While those numbers are small compared to the devastation seen daily in Ukraine, the symbolism of attacks reaching the heart of Russia is significant. Airports in Moscow temporarily closed, grounding flights and rerouting passengers. This demonstrated how quickly civilian infrastructure can be paralyzed by relatively inexpensive drones. For Ukraine, the cost of deploying swarms of drones is tiny compared to the massive resources Russia must spend intercepting them. This imbalance is one reason drone warfare has become such a defining feature of this conflict. Each drone that gets through serves as both a weapon and a psychological message that no part of Russia is truly safe while the war continues. For Moscow, the image of hundreds of drones flying toward the city is a reminder that technology and determination can challenge even the grand narratives of invincibility projected by the Kremlin. Analysts note that this strategy also forces Russia to stretch its air defenses thinner across multiple regions. While Moscow remains heavily guarded, the sheer volume of drones keeps Russian forces occupied and drains ammunition stocks. Ukraine's message seems clear: the war is not confined to the front lines. The strikes show the reach of Ukrainian capabilities and are designed to increase pressure on Russian leadership by making the capital itself feel the consequences of the invasion. For the Russian public, such attacks can fuel frustration with the government's promises of security and raise uncomfortable questions about the effectiveness of state defenses. It is important to note that Ukraine has consistently said it will target military and strategic facilities, not civilians. Drone strikes on Moscow tend to focus on airports, fuel depots, warehouses, or government buildings, though inevitably debris and explosions sometimes damage residential areas. The Russian government portrays the attacks as terrorism, while Ukraine frames them as legitimate acts of self-defense against an aggressor that has bombarded Ukrainian cities relentlessly. For more than 2 years, international observers see this as part of a broader struggle over narratives, where each side seeks to sway public opinion both at home and abroad. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. For decades Moscow projected itself as a fortress city, far from the reach of enemy weapons. Now Muscovites wake to news of hundreds of drones overhead, airports closing, fires breaking out, and casualties reported. Even if most drones are intercepted, the few that get through create images that resonate globally. Video clips of burning buildings and panicked residents spread quickly online, showing the world that Ukraine is capable of striking deep inside Russia despite limited resources. It highlights a new reality of 21st century warfare, where low-cost technology can challenge traditional military dominance. The events also raise questions about escalation. Each time Ukraine demonstrates the ability to strike Moscow, there is speculation about how Russia might retaliate. Will the Kremlin increase its missile attacks on Ukrainian cities, or will it look for new strategies to disrupt Ukraine's drone production? The balance is delicate, because while the strikes are militarily disruptive, they are also politically symbolic. Ukraine's government likely calculates that keeping pressure on Moscow makes Russia's war effort more costly and politically risky. For Russia, acknowledging the vulnerability of its capital is a blow to national pride and a potential challenge to Vladimir Putin's narrative of control. What is undeniable is that warfare has changed before our eyes. A few years ago, the idea that swarms of cheap drones could force the closure of major airports in Moscow, kill workers in warehouses, and cause fires in neighborhoods would have seemed far-fetched. Now it is reality. The March 2025 strike was not the first, but it was the largest, and it marks a moment when the world sees just how much the battlefield has shifted. Instead of tank battles and massive air raids alone, we are witnessing a war where remote-controlled aircraft shape the pace of conflict, where fear can spread faster than the actual destruction, and where the lines between civilian and military targets blur under the pressure of high-tech warfare. For Ukraine, these attacks send a message of resilience and defiance. For Russia, they are a reminder that even its most guarded city cannot escape the reach of modern war.